ENR just released their top owners report. The top 425 construction owners in America now have $670 billion in construction in progress. That is up 12.5%. But here's the real number. Google, Amazon, Microsoft, and Meta are spending $660 to $690 billion on AI infrastructure in 2026 alone. That is more than the entire federal highway budget. And while the top 10 owners are up 21.8%, the bottom 100 are down for 8.2%. The market is splitting harder than ever. This is Construction Market Intelligence for April 9th.
And it is a wild time to be tracking these numbers.
It really is. I'm Justine, and welcome to today's Scaling Legends Deep Dive. We've got a lot of ground to cover.
I'm Nicole, and yeah, we have a massive mission today. We really need to unpack this unprecedented shift in the construction market.
Exactly. Okay, let's unpack this. Usually a rising tide lifts all boats, right? But right now, we're seeing a market that is splitting harder than ever.
Yeah, that $670 billion number for construction in progress is the headline for sure. It's up 12.5% year over year.
Which sounds like great news on paper.
Right, on paper. But when you look closer, the top 10 owners are up almost 22%, while the bottom 100 are actually down 8.2%.
Wait, down 8%?
Yeah, literally shrinking. The split is just accelerating. It's the defining narrative of the decade right now.
And for you listening, whether you're a contractor, project manager, or just, fascinated by macroeconomics, understanding this split is super crucial. It tells you exactly where capital and labor are going to flow next.
Exactly. And to understand where it's flowing, you have to look at the hyperscalers.
Like the tech giants?
Yeah. The capex for 2026 is just staggering. Amazon is spending $200 billion.
$200 billion? Just Amazon?
Just Amazon. Google is at like 175 to 185 billion. Microsoft is over 120 billion, and Meta is dropping 115 to 135 billion.
So if you combine all that hyperscaler spending, we're talking about $660 to $690 billion.
It is the construction driver of the decade, hands down.
And it's all because of data center power demand, right?
Yeah.
We talked about this back in our March deep dive.
Yeah, we did. The power demand is projected to go from 47 gigawatts today up to 176 gigawatts by 2035.
Which is what, like a 3.7 times increase?
Exactly. And that's why grid construction is turning into this massive $1.4 trillion wave. We track this stuff through the Smart Business Automator, and seeing the top owner spending patterns by sectors, it's mind-blowing.
It really is. I kind of think of these hyperscalers like a financial black hole.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, they just have so much economic gravity that they're pulling all the available resources, all the labor, all the materials toward them. And it leaves the smaller projects totally starving.
Yeah, the material supply chain gets completely warped.
So what does this all mean, Nicole? If tech companies are essentially eating the construction world, how do traditional non-tech infrastructure projects even compete for resources?
Well, they have to adapt. They are getting much leaner, they're cutting a ton of red tape, and they're completely changing how they get funded.
Which brings us to the East Coast.
Right, the New Jersey Turnpike.
Yeah, so this is the Vincent R. Cassiano Memorial Bridge replacement.
Exactly. And originally, this was supposed to be this bloated $10.7 billion twin-span plan.
$10 billion for a bridge.
Yeah, but Governor Cheryl actually killed that plan. She scrapped the whole thing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and they opted for a much leaner $6.7 billion single cable-stayed bridge instead.
That's still a huge project, though. $6.7 billion is no joke.
No, it's massive. It's going to create something like 19,000 construction jobs.
Yeah.
They're requiring project labor agreements, too.
So locking in union labor up front.
Right. And here's the kicker. It is entirely toll-funded.
Wait, really? No federal money at all?
Zero federal money needed.
Let me push back on that for a second. Because usually, when a state bypasses federal money, they spin it as this big strategic move. But does bypassing federal money to use toll funds actually speed up the timeline by cutting bureaucratic red tape? Or is it just a financial necessity because the federal money simply isn't there?
It's definitely about speed and cutting red tape. When you take federal money, you trigger all these federal reviews, environmental impact studies, things that can stall a project for years.
Oh, right.
And in a market where materials are getting more expensive by the day because of the tech giants, you cannot afford a 4-year delay.
Yeah, inflation would just eat you alive.
Exactly. By using toll funds, they keep control. Contractor pre-qualification starts this summer in 2026.
And the traffic shift is targeted for 2031, right?
Yep. It stands as one of the largest single bridge projects in the IIJA era. And, if you use the Smart Business Automator project pipeline, you can actually track these mega project pre-qualification windows in real time.
Which is super helpful if you're trying to bid on these things. So that's the financial pivot in New Jersey.
Yeah.
But if you can't outspend the tech giants, you also have to out-engineer them, right?
Absolutely. You have to innovate physically.
Which brings us to the physical engineering pivots happening over in California.
The San Diego airport.
Yes. The new Terminal 1. This is a $3.8 billion project. It's huge, 1.21 million square feet, adding 30 new gates.
And the team on this is stacked. You've got the Turner Flatiron joint venture working with Hensel Phelps, and Gensler is the architect.
Right. But the constraints they are dealing with are just wild. They're building this massive, heavy terminal on liquefiable reclaimed land.
Which basically means the dirt turns to soup during an earthquake.
Literally soup. So they had to drive 3,000 piles up to 90 feet deep just to find stable ground.
That is intense.
But here's where it gets really interesting. To solve the structural issues above ground, they use something called buckling restrained braces.
Oh, I was reading about those. It's a masterclass in structural innovation.
It really is. They act like these highly advanced building-sized shock absorbers. And by using them, they actually eliminated the need for 100 massive steel columns.
100 columns? That's a massive amount of weight.
Yeah. It cut 40% of their steel tonnage.
Yeah.
And in hard dollars, that saved them $58 million outright.
Wow. $58 million just from an engineering swap.
Exactly. And it gets better. It reduced their embodied carbon by 30%.
Which is huge for their AED Gold certification target. They're also doing a 900,000 gallons stormwater capture system.
Right. So my question is, Nicole, are these massive green innovations, like saving 30% in embodied carbon, being driven by environmental mandates? Or is it simply because using 40% less steel happens to save $58 million?
Honestly, it's usually the money. The environmental mandates might set the framework, but a $58 million saving is what actually gets a developer to enthusiastically sign off on it.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
It's all about survival under extreme constraint. And it works. I mean, this project has a $4.5 billion economic impact and is supporting 25,300 jobs.
That is just incredible. Okay, so we've got self-funded ingenuity in New Jersey and structural innovation in San Diego. But let's look at the middle of the country, because the funding contrast is just wild.
You're talking about Oklahoma City.
Yeah, the new Continental Coliseum.
Right, so this is a $900 million arena, 750,000 square feet.
Built by the Flinco-Mortensen joint venture, right?
Yep. They actually break ground on March 26, 2026, and they're aiming to open in the summer of 2028. But the funding split is what's really fascinating.
Okay, break it down for us.
Out of that $900 million, $850 million is taxpayer funded. It's coming from the MAPS penny sales tax.
Wait, $850 million from taxpayers?
Yeah. The local NBA team, the Thunder, is only contributing $50 million.
Oh, wow.
That's just 5.6% of the total cost.
Wait, so let me get this straight. The private hyperscalers, like Amazon and Google, are spending hundreds of billions of their own money to build data centers. But a private sports franchise is only putting up 5.6% for their own building.
Pretty much. The taxpayers are covering the rest.
That is so ironic. The market really is polarized.
It is, and it shows how varied project funding can be. But if you want to know where the private capital is actually flowing in the construction space, outside of the tech giants building servers, you have to look at Contech.
Construction technology.
Exactly. For example, Sensera Systems just raised a $27 million Series B.
Oh, I saw that. That's for AI construction monitoring, right?
Yeah, their site cloud platform. It's already being used by over 2,000 general contractors.
Which is just crazy adoption.
And we track these Contech funding rounds through the Smart Business Automator. It is a huge indicator of where the industry is heading.
So with all this capital flying around from $690 billion data center pushes to massive public arenas, how do contractors actually manage the risk?
Well, they use the exact same technology that's driving the boom, AI.
Right, because otherwise, how do you scale without just totally drowning in paperwork?
You can't. AI is scaling construction operations in ways we've never seen. We're talking about smart document organization, daily log, and meeting summaries. It's wild.
And document intelligence, right? Like extracting exact specs from hundreds of pages of blueprints.
Exactly. It also helps with RFI assistance, detecting schedule risks before they happen, giving budget and variance insights, and even analyzing the impact of change orders.
It's almost like having an omniscient project manager who never sleeps, just constantly reading the tea leaves of RFIs and budgets to spot a delay before it ever hits the job site.
Yeah, it's a total game changer. But it makes me wonder, Justine, if AI is optimizing all this back office work, does that eventually close the gap between the top 10 owners and the bottom 100? Or will it just widen the split because the big players adopt it first?
That is the million-dollar question. I mean, my gut says the big players are already moving faster. Look at the energy market trends.
Oh, the search trends are super telling. Yates Construction is completely breaking out right now. They hit a trend score of 75.
Which is, what, a 22,000% jump?
Yeah, plus 22,000%. And we're seeing other weird spikes too, like highway accident lawyers also hit a score of 75.
That's an interesting correlation.
Right, and Google AI News hit a score of 65, which is up over 51,000%. Even specific locations like Port Washington, D.C. hit 65.
We are definitely seeing major general contractors trending together in these search clusters. You know, Turner, Yates, Mortensen, Clune, they're all popping up. And if you have the Smart Business Automator, you can track these emerging search trends yourself to see who's moving the market.
You really have to keep an eye on those names. But beyond just watching the trends, contractors have some very real, very immediate deadlines coming up that they need to prepare for.
Oh, right. Let's run through those. We've got the Gateway Court deadline coming up fast.
Very fast. That's on April 16th, which is literally 7 days away.
And then we have the anti-DEI executive order.
Right. That deadline hits on April 25th, so in 16 days.
And just to pause here for a second, for you listening, we want to be super clear that we are not taking a side on this executive order. We are strictly impartial here. We are purely reporting the compliance deadline from our source material because it directly affects federal contractors.
Exactly. Whatever your politics are, if you're managing federal contracts, you have to know that deadline is April 25th.
Yep, compliance is compliance. And what was the last deadline?
The Spark applications, those are due on May 20th, so you have 41 days for that one.
Okay, so a little more breathing room there, but still coming up.
Yeah, the calendar is definitely packed.
So to tie all these threads together for you listening, the construction industry is truly caught in a barbell economy right now.
A barbell economy, that's a great way to visualize it.
Yeah, because on one side, you are being pulled by this massive hyperscaler capital at the top. Google, Amazon, Microsoft, they're sucking up the materials and the labor.
And on the other side, traditional infrastructure is being forced to innovate just to survive the squeeze.
Exactly. Structurally innovating like the San Diego airport or financially pivoting like the New Jersey Turnpike, it's adapt or die.
It really is. And
that leaves us with one final thought to mull over. The tools being used to build the physical infrastructure for AI, like these massive data centers, are now being managed by AI tools on the job site.
Like SiteCloud and the smart document bots.
Right. And if physical infrastructure is currently the main bottleneck for AI's growth, what happens when AI starts fully designing, predicting, and autonomously managing the construction of its own data centers?
Oh, wow. The algorithm just totally takes over the build process.
Yeah. Like when it doesn't even need a human project manager to place the orders or spot the delays. What happens to the market split then?
That is a wild thing to think about.
It really is. So for those of you listening, if you know a contractor or project manager or anyone dealing with these market splits or scaling issues, you need to share this deep dive with them right now.
Definitely. Send it their way.
And make sure to hit like, leave a comment, and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on. You do not want to miss our next exploration of these sources.
Keep building, stay lean, and watch the data.
We'll catch you on the next deep dive.